Hello, good morning. I hope everyone are well and safe today. My name is Tia Haslam, and thank you for joining us in today's webinar. I would like to welcome you to our Never Stop Learning webinar series on an introduction to D365 all-channel communication featuring Solgari. This is a live session brought to you by CRM Dynamics, one of the largest Microsoft Gold partner in Canada, 2019 Microsoft Impact Award winner, and a member of Microsoft Global Inner Circle Partners for Business Applications in 2019 and 2020. Now, before we begin our webinar, I would like to take you through some guidelines. To ensure that everyone can listen to the presentation, we have muted all the lines, and if you would like to ask questions, please use the chat or question function on your control panel, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. In today's webinar, you will be introduced to our D365 all-channel communication solution, which is part of our Blueprint Solution series. This solution features video, voice, chat, SMS, co-browse, file sharing, and handling of other third-party channels such as WhatsApp or WeChat. We are very excited today to have Bill Gartner, our CEO, Managing Partner at CRM Dynamics, and Rob Henley, Head of Product Marketing at Solgari, presenting for us today. I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and now I would like to invite Bill and Rob to begin their presentation.
Thanks, Tia. I appreciate it, and good morning, everyone. My job is to spend about a minute just giving you some background on why we're doing this today. And I'll go back. We used to do a lot of call center implementations. So we did ones, like at TELUS and other ones in the past. And at one point, solutions like Avaya, Nortel Meridian, Mitel, and others were really the standard for a corporate telephony system. So companies would have a PBX. They were pretty expensive. One or more call centers, and then they were in business. And over the last few weeks, really a lot's changed. So work from home has become very, very important, or really working from anywhere. So call centers or contact centers can't be rooted at set locations anymore. Now, people will be getting back to their companies again at some point, but I think the work from home will be here to stay. And, from a contingency planning, we'll always, at least for the next couple of years, have to be aware that we might have to work from home again, even in the fall or next spring. So our solutions have to be able to support that. And the older PBX systems really don't support work from home very well. Some not at all, and others that we've seen, and we do integrate with them, but they tend to be pretty clunky. The other thing that's happening is there's other communication types now. We're seeing a lot of people using, chat and things, trying to get their work done. And more, consumers and customers are using texting, chatbots, social media communications, and they expect us to be able to communicate with them on all of the platforms, not just, a phone line. And that's where the all communications comes in. And that's another area as well. The older systems they're not very good at it, or they can't do it at all. So we've had a relationship with Solgari over the last 2 years. In the last fall, we did an extensive review of their technology with the plans to launch later this year. And at the time, we didn't foresee COVID. So now, if one of our clients has an older PBX who wants to stay in business, they need a modern communication solution. It's not a nice to have, it's essential. So we moved Solgari to our top priority, along with the self-service portals that many of you, if you're a customer of ours, are already using, and other companies that might be might be looking at that right now. That's another way of working with people, not in person. So we found really Solgari to be the best solution out there to meet client demands. Unlike other telephony solutions where we need to integrate, it actually works from within CRM itself. So Rob's going to show that today. It also works as a standalone for team members who don't have Dynamics. So if people are using a PC or a tablet or a mobile phone working from home, it will support all of those things. So essentially, if you've got an internet connection and a device, you can be working and supporting the business. So thank you for listening to me. And what I'd like to do now is transfer over to Rob from Solgari. We'll be walking you through the solution today. And I look forward to questions afterwards. And and beyond. So thank you, everybody. And over to you, Rob.
Thanks very much, Bill. Appreciate your introduction, and also thanks very much to the rest of your team for having us as part of this webinar today. So for everyone else that's here, I'd just like to welcome you to the introduction to the Dynamics 365 all-channel communication solution. As I said, my name is Rob Henley. I'm the head of product marketing for Solgari, and we're a cloud communication solution headquartered in Dublin, Ireland, but working globally. Feel free to connect with me, of course, across any of these channels here. You can actually even WhatsApp me directly if needs be, but it'd be great to connect with you on LinkedIn in particular. So, as Bill rightly said, I'm going to take you through a presentation, and my objective today is to ensure that everyone on this webinar has a good overview of what the Solgari solution is, who we are, what we're doing with regards to Dynamics 365, remote working and beyond. And I'm also going to show you a bit of the solution itself in action. And obviously towards the end, we'll do a bit of a Q&A and get a bit more specific to your own needs. So starting here, just to give a background on Solgari, we're a strategic partner with Microsoft, both from a sales and development perspective. So we're a global Microsoft ISV, and we're providing the Dynamics 365 all-channel solution to D365 users and customers in 40 countries to date. So we're a top 100 global Microsoft ISV, very much part of their global strategy around a program called ISV Connect for business applications. Our solution is the first, we are the first ISV to deliver integration across all the channels, and we'll talk a bit about the channel capabilities today, and that's the likes of voice, video, SMS, chat, and more. Along with the functionality, which is a really key importance to our customers, particularly at the moment, and that comes into things like cloud telephony, your cloud contact center functionality, and we'll talk a bit more about that. And as I mentioned already, we're a premium tier business application ISV Connect partner, co-selling with Microsoft Dynamics 365 teams globally, and obviously through our partner network as well, which we're very proud to be partnered so closely with CRM Dynamics. And to be working on this in particular campaign, and obviously there's unfortunately a need for our offering at the moment, so we think it's a very strong partnership to take to the North American and Canadian markets. So just give an idea of what our USPs are, and just so at a quite a high level. So building on the last slide, what we would like to call it, and it's kind of a good description, is full stack cloud communications. So to use a reasonably technical term. So what that actually is essentially integrated across all your communications and your functionality, and having it accessible in the cloud. So on the right hand side there, you can see all the different channels that a company needs. It differs from company to company. We've some companies, customers who are using voice heavily along with things like SMS and chat, but then you may have other companies that have got third-party requirements like Facebook Messenger, Twitter, and beyond. The functionality layer really refers to our kind of cloud telephony and cloud contact center functionality. So what that generally takes the shape of is functionality like voicemail, call forwarding, transferring, presence, along with things in the contact center side of things like queuing, agent groups, real-time monitoring reports, barge, whisper, and listen, and beyond. One of the key things about our solution is that because it's delivered through the cloud, it facilitates this concept of working from anywhere, and this is key at the moment due to everything that's happening with COVID-19. So through our endpoints, which are accessible through your browser inside Dynamics 365, and also just through our standalone application, which is in the browser as well, which I'll show you today, we're essentially empowering teams to work from anywhere. So today I'm working from home, and I'm going to show you all the endpoints that I can use to communicate with customers right over my own internet connection here in my house. Building on that, we've a cutting edge integration with Microsoft Dynamics 365, and it's facilitated through this channel integration framework, which you see here on the right hand side. And I'll go into a bit of detail on that when we look at the solution overview in the next slide. What all this provides is a number of things to our customers. Obviously, it helps improve the customer experience, and that's because you're giving them more channels to communicate with you over. In the current climate where customers are getting, with a lot of companies, are getting a bad customer experience due to high volume and demand on customer service. We're helping companies expand their channels, more effectively manage their voice communications, in particular through our cloud contact center, and then also empowering agents to see all the customer data inside of Dynamics 365. So you'll get to see what that looks like as we go into the demo in a few minutes. So the solution overview, and this this is a nice, I suppose, visual of our solution and the different routes that our customers take. So as you can see here on the left-hand side, we've got Solgari Console, and this is essentially our management portal, where you can manage functionality like your cloud telephony functionality around ring groups and extension management, and also things around contact center like queuing management, detailed reporting capabilities, as well as things like your call recordings and various things that we can add to that, like transcription. So that's all accessible through this application called Solgari Console. And I'm going to show you what that looks like, because that is essentially where you manage your company's communications from once we set you up with a tenancy. Once you've that set up, you know, if let's say within a company you have a customer service team or a sales team using Dynamics 365 heavily, what we do is we provision them with the Dynamics 365 application, which runs inside this channel integration framework. And what's so, I suppose, cutting edge about this is that essentially means that we can rapidly deploy, and I'll talk a bit more about deployment in a little bit later, but through this channel integration framework, which is easy to download through AppSource. So it's a Microsoft initiative. We've worked very, very closely with them. We're on version 2.0, which gives us massive capabilities. And what it essentially means is that we can provide an immersive communications experience within Dynamics 365. Not all our customers, so within a lot of our customers, they may have part of their team using Dynamics 365, and the rest of the company may not be CRM users. So for them, we have our web phone endpoint, which is accessible obviously through the browser. We also have our iOS and Android applications, so if you've got teams that are on the road, and we've also got desk phones, so we can provision IP phones so that you can have your traditional desk phones in your offices as well. And the key thing about this, around these applications down here, is because at the moment we're seeing a lot of demand from customers. They've got an immediate communications need where they're struggling to communicate with customers. And what this means is that we can set up a tenancy really rapidly, you know, within a week for some of the simpler implementations, and provision these endpoints straight away. So once you're set up as an extension, you can access your web phone, your iOS phone, and then there's obviously we can provision IP phones as well. On the right-hand side, then you've got your channels. So every company is different. Voice is obviously one of the major channels at the moment. We're seeing a lot of companies struggling around the voice element and the cloud contact center element at the moment. And the reason being is that, you know, companies just aren't equipped to manage a contact center or manage a contact center team remotely. And so voice is something that we'll talk primarily about today. But we also have these other channels, like being able to start a chat and escalate to an audio and video call all within your browser, and we facilitate that through Solgari Connect. SMS is still a really important channel for customers, both two-way SMS and single send bulk SMS, depending on the industry. And then we have these other channels that we're able to plug in. So these don't come as standard with our solution. They'd be added in as part of an add-on to our all-channel solution. But we can integrate third-party channels like WhatsApp, WeChat, Facebook Messenger, and even Twitter into your endpoint, so that your agent can be handling multiple communications over multiple channels, all from the one endpoint inside Dynamics 365. Okay, so I'm going to actually step out of the presentation here to show you some of the solution in action itself. You'll be familiar with this visual here. So what I'm going to do is, and I'll make this available to anyone who wants it. So it's an interactive, you may be familiar with Envision app, but it's interactive. So essentially you can click on it and it will take you to more detailed videos of all these different features that we provide on our YouTube channel, which you can find at Solgari Cloud. For the purpose of today, I'm going to show you some of our web apps live in my browser. So I'm going to start here with Solgari Console. So as you remember, this is our management portal. And I'm going to use my demo tenancy, which is Solgari CIF. So if your company was set up on Solgari, you would have your tenant admin would be able to log in here, and essentially they would have full control over the functionality related to your tenancy here. So you'll see here, I'm logged in now. what you're looking at here is a high-level overview of your tenancy. So there's different settings set up here. You can just see a kind of a call volume thing here. So it's obviously not high on our tenancy because we're not active users like most of our customers are. But the important features are here along the left-hand side. So you've got your routing capabilities. So Solgari to add to our software layer, we're also a carrier, so we're a licensed telco, and what that means is essentially we partner with global and local carriers to provide PSTN capabilities and toll-free numbers locally, and that is a key feature of our solution as well, because we're the carrier. It gives us access to a lot more data and then a lot more carrier capabilities, particularly around things like routing. One example would be in a heavy-duty outbound contact center that we work with, where they do a lot of outbound traffic. So basically what they want is that when an agent clicks the dial from inside Dynamics 365, that whatever number they call, it presents a number that's local to that number. So we can do that by identifying the call, and then we can present a local number. So you can actually see all that capabilities within routing. So inbound rules here is what I've got access to here. And within this, I'm after clicking on the wrong section. Yeah, so within this, I can see any numbers assigned to our tenancy. So in a company, you would generally have a lot more numbers than this. We've a UK London number set up, a US Los Angeles number. But as I said, we can configure numbers from anywhere for our customers. And if you have existing numbers as a company, we can also port them over so that you can access them from here as well. And essentially here, we can agree on whatever inbound, outbound rules you want around your numbers, and you can actually see them. And then if you want, you can even edit them from here. So once you've all your numbers set up, you can obviously add more and stuff from within here. This is the next important section. So this is your call management section. And this is where you can manage things like your extensions. So you can see here that we've only got a number of people on our demo tenancy. So I can see that 2 of them are already logged in. Tamara and Tony are logged in. And within here, essentially, I can see all our extensions. And if I want to edit or edit any of the configurations around that extension, I simply right-click and I can go in and edit that. It's also pretty cool that if, let's say, a new member of the team is added, you're growing your team. From here, you can actually, without having to talk to Solgari, you can just create a new record and set them up on the Solgari system. From going back to extensions here. So that's the first protocol, getting everyone set up. On larger implementations that we do, generally we set up a statement of works where we take in that information. We do bulk uploads, so you don't have to do this one by one. So our support take care of that as part of the onboarding process. And then when you go in, you will be able to see all your receptionists, so your virtual or digital receptionists, all the ring groups that are set up for your tenancy, as well as all your queuing capabilities. And we can even set up conferencing capabilities as well. So if we start here with queues, because this will take us into Dynamics 365. So if we start here with queues, I'm going to go in and view all the queues assigned to this tenancy. So you can see operations, sales, and support. These are very easy to set up. So if you want to set up a new queue with different rules and associated with different numbers or offices, you can set them up here by adding a new record, and then you can edit them from within here. So you've got your general settings, the members that are part of your queue, and then you've got your managers. So within here, and I won't go into all the detail of this, and as I said, there is more detailed demonstrations and walkthroughs on our YouTube channel. But within here, essentially, you've got all your general settings and configurations associated with your queues. So that's everything from your ring durations to your polling strategies. So if whoever's in this queue, I want it to be a prioritized hunt, so it basically goes through this list of agents that are part of the queue and it tries to find the next available agent in order of priority. So there's different strategies associated with it. You can upload your own hold music, and you've got different languages here as well associated with your queue attendant. So if you're dealing, let's say, in a French speaking location or dealing with some other foreign language, you can, other than English, you can change it here so that basically the queue attendant, when it tells you maybe your position in the queue, speaks back in the correct language. So you can configure that here as well. So you got your destination. So basically all your configurations here. And once you've set up your queues, you've added your members to it, you can actually go in and view them here and manage and monitor. So you can see everyone in the different queues. and you can right click on them to see things like move them into different queues, clone them to a different queue, and if you have these features enabled, you can barge, whisper, and listen into their conversations. So what that means is once you've this set up and you have your tenancy set up and you have your rules associated with it, there's a number of different endpoints, as I mentioned, that you can communicate over. So you've got your Dynamics 365 application, which I'll show you live on our tenancy in our environment. So I'm logging into Dynamics 365 here. As I mentioned earlier, we use the channel integration framework essentially to drive our integration with Dynamics 365. It's a really powerful, to give us a small bit of background on the channel integration framework, it's simply a set of APIs that enables us to provide that immersive communication experience inside Dynamics 365. So basically you download it from App Source. I'll just quickly go into here. You download from App Source and you set Solgari up as a channel provider. And within here then, I'll just quickly show you the settings because it's very simple and it's quite interesting. So you set up these settings here. This is the link to our application, which runs inside the channel integration framework. You decide which applications you want it to run inside. So Sales Hub, Customer Service. Obviously, if you have other configurations or apps running on Dynamics 365, it can work seamlessly within those as well. And you can even set roles, so who you want to actually see the channel integration framework within Dynamics 365. So not every user, for instance, would actually need to access communications inside Dynamics. So this caters for that. And what that means then is when I click into Customer Service Hub, I'm obviously set up as an extension. In the back end now, what's happening is it will load the channel integration framework here on the right-hand side. Give it a second. So it'll load the channel integration framework. And what it does then, what our system is doing essentially is it's talking to Dynamics 365. It's recognizing who is signed into Dynamics 365, and then it will register my endpoint. And why this is important is for a number of reasons. So I'm after logging in at the start of my day. I'm here sitting at home in my, obviously working remotely, we'll say, but I am now, from a company perspective, logged in and I'm available to start making and receiving communications with customers. And if you go back to our console here, and I go back to extension level here, so load it here, you'll see now that I'm logged in here using this endpoint, and I should also be straight away logged into any queues as well. So now I'm able to start making and receiving communications, all from inside Dynamics 365. So for non-Dynamics 365 users, as I mentioned, we have our web phone as well, which is accessible through the browser. I'm not going to log in here because just to show you, but it's a very similar UI to this UI, but it's just standalone outside of Dynamics 365. So as I was mentioning, if there's a company that an initial or immediate communications requirement needed access to a cloud contact center with cloud telephony capabilities, we can set them up with this web phone. They can sign in using their credentials, and you'll see here then that their endpoint will register here on the system. And you'll see it goes, hello, Rob, you're now logged in and registered to go. So very similar experience. So I'll just close that. We also have, and I'm just going to show up my mobile here as well so you can see this. We also have Dynamics 365. We also have a mobile application here as well. So that's available for, using my face to register. So this is available for iOS and Android phones. And the benefit of this is that if let's say for some reason you can't access your laptop, you can actually access your endpoint from your mobile, so that if I have to make calls with customers or if I have to be available to receive calls, I can do it through my mobile device, and all of these calls will be stored compliantly on the Solgari system. So we make it as easy as possible for our customers to communicate with us via any application. So it's going to log out of that because it'll start ringing me while I demo a few journeys. Okay, so coming back to Dynamics 365 for the purposes of today's demonstration, what I'm going to do is show you some of the features that are available to our agents once they're logged into Dynamics 365. So once again, it will register my endpoint here on the right hand side. And I'm in the Customer Service Hub for the purpose of today. And we'll just talk a bit about how we integrate, and then the different things like screen pop, click to dial, and all of those functionality as well. So my endpoint is loading here and registering on the right hand side. You'll see the AI will welcome me here. Welcome back. Thank you very much. And oh, the rest of the team must be off. Yeah, so that's fine. That's just basically I can view the rest of my team from here. You've got your little dynamics button down here as well. So what this does is essentially, if I'm on a call with a person, I may not know who they are, for instance, I can quickly do a screen pop. So create a contact for that person on the left-hand side. So if I click on this, you'll see it'll do a screen pop here on the left-hand side. And where that becomes important is if you have a journey where, let's say, a customer calls in and you haven't set an automatic rule around an unknown customer, what you can do is you can actually decide whether I want to create a new contact for this. It may want to create a new case for them, or you might, for instance, want to create a new opportunity or lead for that if you're using Sales Hub, for instance. So that's available within here as well. And what you have here then as well is a few more options. So I've got conferencing capabilities. So you would have seen in the back end, we can set up audio and video conferencing rooms. And what that's primarily used for is, for internal calls or inviting customers onto a conference call. And then you also have your third-party integrations. So we'll talk a bit about these as well when I show you this capability up here, and screen sharing. So there's lots you can do from within here. So what I'm going to do now is actually call into the contact center now itself. So if I just bring up my mobile phone again here, you'll see I'm going to call, okay, so that went slightly wrong for me, but you can see here it's doing a call lookup. I'm going to answer for that. It's ringing in my ear, so I'm a bit thrown off. Great. Okay, so what essentially happened there was I dialed here from my mobile. So you can see here I dialed into the UK number, and that number then was routed through to my agent because I'm live and available. And what has happened is on the left-hand side, it has done a person or a contact lookup within the CRM. So it's basically looked at the mobile phone field, look at the mobile number that's calling. It's done a lookup of mobile phone field inside this entity, which is a person or a contact entity. We can configure different journeys depending on our customer requirements. So if you have custom entities, we can work around that, and I'll show you some of the back-end capabilities around that. Or if you have any specific journeys, we can facilitate that as well. So you can see here now I'm on the call here on the right-hand side. I have full access to all the customer data here. We can as easily pop a case here. And what's really cool then is that if I, for instance, and obviously on the call here, I can do things like transfer the call. So if I want to transfer this call through to someone else in the team, I can do that. If I transfer this call through to another queue or to another member of the team, they will get the exact same screen pop and they will see any notes that I've added to this. So there's lots of kind of interoperability here as well. And I can still go back and access this endpoint. So as I mentioned earlier, if I wanted to pop a case related to this, I could do this from within here. We just configure the case button inside this drop down. So it's really, really easy to use. Let's return to this screen. And then obviously, let's say in the case here, I've taken my communication, I'm in my browser. Once I end that call, what we do is we automatically add an activity to this timeline here. So you can see all the previous ones I've made here. And if I just refresh this here, you'll see here that it has logged that I made a call here, call from the customer, and you can actually go in and see a bit more detail on it as well. So you can see here, this is the high level detail, the journey of the call, duration, so we can leave a record in it. And this piece of information is quite cool as well. So if let's say they're a compliance and recording customer, what we can do is we can actually put this call identifier in it and present the call recording here within this endpoint so that you can actually listen back to the call in real time. So for instance, if I just show you how click to dial works here quickly. So I'm back in the customer. Maybe I didn't fully deal with what we were hoping to deal with on the call. What I can do from here is I can initiate quickly an outbound call to the customer again. And what you'll see on my phone is I'm receiving the call from the UK. Better answer it. Hello. And that's me on the phone, obviously. I'm just going to mute that. So now I'm initiated a click to dial really, easily from inside the CRM. I'm talking to the customer. Yeah, I'm happy with how we're dealing with this, and maybe we need to talk about something else. And it's going to end this call now as well. So click to dial is there as well. And if, for instance, we have a customer that has a requirement that they want more channels to basically communicate outbound with their customer, what we can do here is actually, instead of initiating click to dial straight away, is we can populate this field. And this is pretty cool, I think. So if I just manually do it here, you'll see that it recognizes, okay, so what's happened there is I can click to dial and it populates this identifier field up here. And essentially what happens is it looks at what information I've put in there and it presents different channels that I can use or communicate with the customer over. So because this is an Irish mobile number, it's essentially saying, okay, well, you can initiate a voice call here. You can also send an SMS. And you could even, if these were plugged into the back end, you'd be able to communicate over WhatsApp or WeChat with this customer. In the same way, if I just remove that and I put in @RobHenley, you can see that you can plug in different channels in here as well. So the identifier here would be a Twitter handle, so it's presenting the option to communicate with them over Twitter. So that's particularly important if you want to plug in a customer service Twitter account into a queue or a ring group. So we can help facilitate that. So in the case of this, where I want to maybe send an SMS instead of making a call, I just click SMS, hi Rob, and I can send that SMS outbound to the customer, and that should be received by me. 1 second. So that will come through now, and you'll see, now you're going to think I get a lot of mad. So you can see the message came through there. So if I just, you can't actually see it, but it's there at the bottom, hi Rob. So I'm always texting myself, as you can imagine. So I don't need this phone anymore, so I can close that down. And I'm going to show you another journey, which is very much of interest to a lot of our customers, and it's around a chat escalation. So where you have maybe a chat implemented on your website or in an application, and you want to be able to chat and then escalate to an audio and video call. So I'm just going to refresh that. So generally, we can offer this solution to our customers, and it's called Solgari Connect. And I'm just going to click on this and it'll open it up for me. And what Solgari Connect is, as I said, this is a customer-facing solution. So you can embed it in your website. You can send this link out in an SMS or a email campaign. And what essentially we can do then is when a customer wants to chat or initiate a conversation with you through it, all they have to do is initiate a chat or initiate an audio or video call. And what happens then is we route that into a ring group, find the next available agent who can handle that chat and offer them the conversation. This Connect bot, just to give a bit of background, this Connect bot here that you're looking at can actually gather some information, and we'll come back to this in a minute when we look at console, but it can gather some information like an identifier, maybe their mobile number or their case number, and it can use that then to create a screen pop. So I'll just make sure this is loaded correctly. Yeah. Okay. And I am going to click chat here. Yeah, okay, so what I've done here is, so this is a tokenized system. This token's linked directly to my extension for the purpose of demos, but as I said, it could be linked into a ring group. And what's happened here then is saying, okay, well, someone wants to connect with you. Hi there. Now, as I mentioned, we can actually gather some information from the customer prior to beginning this conversation. So instead of having this random extension associated with this conversation, you can actually have their IVR or their case number or their mobile number. So from the customer perspective, they're in a conversation now, the agent knows exactly who they're dealing with. But what they can also do then, and this is particularly interesting to customers we have in the likes of financial services where they need to maybe share some files or documents. We can initiate a little storage unit for our tenancy, and you can actually add an image or a file into this conversation so that the agent can receive it here, and maybe it's to review something like a driver's license or no claims bonus in the insurance sector. But the main journey that we have interest in is this escalation to video and audio. So I'm going to actually start a video call here. Hello. And on this side then you'll see here, and I can hear it in my ear, on this side here then you'll see that it basically acts like a normal call. I'm just going to mute myself to both sides. So it's done a screen pop based on this information, so I'll just open the Connect test just for the purpose of this. As I said, we can configure it to do use an email address, we can use an IVR, so like a case or a contract number, or even a mobile number. Depends very much on our customer's CRM configurations. And once I'm on this call, I can see the customer data on the left-hand side. I can keep chatting here within this chat interface. So keep chatting. And also then I can obviously escalate to video call. So I'm going to go into video here. Hello there. And then this is what the customer sees here on the other side. So we've got this kind of rich communications experience here, where on the left-hand side you can be chatting, sharing files. Here I can see the agent face-to-face. The agent could even initiate a screen share from within the system. So I can go here to screen share and share my screen again. And now what the customer will see is all this information here. They can talk with the agent, but they can also see the agent's screen. So this is, a really interactive way of communicating with your customers, where they can initially start with a chat, be passed through into Dynamics 365, and then they can, escalate then up to audio and video and even share their files. Another important kind of aspect of this that is really interesting to a lot of our customers is, we can also do things like integrate compliant payment processes for our customers. So if I, let's say, want to receive a payment over the phone with a customer, we can set a compliant payments IVR, which is integrated with the third-party payment provider up. And what the customer can do in this one communication is they get passed through to the IVR, they're prompted to enter their credit card details, we verify those payments with the customer, and then at the end of it, they're passed back to the agent. So within this one communication, all through their browser, they're able to start with a chat, share files, maybe review a quote, and then actually make a payment all through their browser. Okay, so when I end that call there, you'll see here on this side, the call is ended. We can log any aspect of the call, so the call recordings can be stored here within the relevant entity. And even if there was stuff in the chat here that we wanted to store that we thought was relevant, we can do that from within here as well. You simply go to your drop down here and you can just go commit conversation to call note. And basically then, as an agent, I've taken the payment, I can move on to the next communication, and everything is stored compliantly within the Dynamics 365 environment. So that kind of brings us into another element of our capabilities, and it comes into like compliance and call recording. So if I just show you this back end side of things, we've got archive recordings, extension level recording. So within here, essentially, I can access all my call recordings. You can see them calls that I'm after making as part of this demo. I can quickly search here. So if I want to search either by my own extension, so 307, I can pull any call related to my own extension, or if I want to 7665234. If I want to find a communication related to a customer, I can quickly source it and search back through it. As you can see, it's really, really quick. So for instance, oh, go away. I'll just go off Teams, so I'm sorry, it's typical. So anyways, I can quickly navigate through, and if, let's say, I find a communication that I'm happy with and I want to find out more about, and this is pretty cool, I can just quickly play that communication, and you can see the dial pad down below here. Or not the dial pad, but the media player. I can listen back to that call, and I can even do things like transcribe as well. So if I want to, let's say, get a transcript of the call because the customer was complaining or made a complaint, we can transcribe the call for you using this, and you can see it's very, very accurate, works across a number of different languages. And within here, then I can transcribe the call, I can copy and then paste that back into an email or a chat response, depending on how I want to deal with it. We also have sentiment analysis here as well. So if you, let's say, for some reason wanted to have sentiment analysis as part of your KPIs, so how many of our calls are negative and then are turned to positive. So we can gather that data for you and include that within your general reporting, which is available as part of our Cloud Contact Center. So you can see it here. So you've got your call level reporting, agent level reporting, or queue level reporting, and then you've got your higher level reports like first call resolution, service level agreements, average handle time, and ASAs. And we can basically make more metrics part of this, like, as I said, sentiment analysis, and we can even present them in interactive wallboards for real-time updates. Last thing I'm going to touch upon before we move to the next section where we talk about questions and answers and all of that is how the integration actually works. So from the great thing about the channel integration framework is we don't need to run a managed solution on your instance, in Dynamics 365 environment, because it's all taken care of via the channel integration framework, which I mentioned is a set of APIs essentially. And what that means is we can configure lots of really cool journeys for you, and we've actually started making them available to our customers within our CRM section. So for instance, we can set up loads of unique search journeys. So if I wanted, I can create a new stage where I can choose between, okay, a search where it would present all the options on the left-hand side, maybe around cases, or a screen pop or open, so that it automatically opens the screen, like you saw when I did an inbound call. I can pick what entity. So if you have a custom entity, you can just simply enter it in here. So that's what the entity is doing the search for. What field I want to look for within that. So it might be the mobile phone field, it might be the email field, or it might be a case number field. And what we can do here then is provide a number of different sources. So you can see in my instance, in my environment, I can choose between a number and an IVR. And why that's cool is so we can set up where you dial into our contact center, a digital receptionist asks you to input your case number, for instance, and within that then we can take that IVR, that case number, pass it through into the system so that it does a lookup of this field within this entity, and then it does that action. So there's lots of different kind of customized journeys that we can configure for our customers. Generally, we work with them to agree what's best and for their specific use cases, because as I'm sure you're aware, every company is slightly different, particularly when it comes to custom entities. But I just said I'd touch on this because you can have lots of really cool journeys set up within here and managed from within here as well. So from my perspective, and this is to come back to this slide again, I suppose the objective for me today was to give you a good feel for our solution in a demo environment and try and show you some of the end-to-end capabilities of our solution. So started here looking at some of the management capabilities, as well as showing you a number of our different endpoints, primarily the Dynamics 365 one, but also our web phone and our mobile applications. So if I just go back to my presentation again, to get me back on cue. So that was our solution overview. And just one thing that's very important to talk about as a kind of a nice way to kind of finish up, and this is probably one of the things that's most important at the moment. And we're working with a lot of customers who are having, as I said, issues around communications, and they're looking for ways to, I suppose, solve those issues as quickly as possible. So one of the benefits of us being an end-to-end cloud communication solution and also being a carrier is that we can help with kind of a rapid implementation. And we do that through exactly what you've seen, setting up a tenancy for our customers, getting the configurations around their users, onboarding that really quickly via our support team, and then allowing you to manage it then within Solgari console. So it's very, very easy to do. From a perspective of Dynamics 365, it's essentially zero or light touch. And by that, I mean that you just have to download the channel integration framework. There's a couple of minor configurations you have to make around click to dial, but it's very, very easy. It doesn't affect anything else that you may have on your Dynamics 365 environment. So from that perspective, there's no big major project needed to implement our integration. And the thing is then beyond that, when it comes to actually rolling it out to your end users or to your agents, is that our AI takes care of that. If they're a D365 user, they essentially, and the channel integration framework's been set up, they essentially only have to log in, and they will be welcomed by the Solgari AI. And if the same goes if they log in across any of our other endpoints. And on the left-hand side there, you can just see a high-level view of it, of how we work. We gather the data of what you need. So look at your current configurations, look at how we can move that into a cloud contact center environment, do some UAT with your teams internally, refine any configurations, and then we can go live. And depending on the company that we're working with, we can do it in as little as 1 week, up to 3 weeks, depending on the size of the organization. So we've gone through this customer journey already, the demo journey. And I just want to touch on this. So we've obviously looked at the agent journey, and we've looked at a couple of customer journeys, as well as things like click to dial and the connect journey on chat, video, and more, as well as looking at some of the back-end functionality here around accessing your cloud telephony and contact center functionality to show, extension and queue level management. Here as well is important, our call recording and archiving capabilities. It's a very important aspect of what we do because, we have a lot of customers who have compliance and regulatory obligations. So we support them in that. And then, from a business management perspective and business continuity perspective, being able to manage it within the cloud and having all these reporting capabilities available to you gives you a solution that essentially you can manage and access from anywhere. So I'm going to come to the end of my presentation to kind of leave time for an interactive Q&A, hopefully. So just want to thank everyone, particularly CRM Dynamics, firstly for having me on and for rolling out this campaign with us. We're very excited to be working more extensively in North America and Canada, and we really want to help businesses across the region to, primarily to solve any short-term communications issues they have, but also to get more out of their communications from a Dynamics perspective as well. My name is Rob Henley, as I mentioned at the start. I'm Head of Product Marketing. Feel free to contact me at any point. And we have our US and Canadian number set up there. And if you'd like to find out a little bit more about our solution, feel free to visit solgari.com or even go to our YouTube channel, Solgari Cloud, which has some very informative videos. I have other links that are very helpful too. So if you want to reach out to me or the CRM Dynamics team, I'll be sure to share that with you. And obviously, if you want to jump on a call or arrange a follow-up meeting, I'm more than happy to do that. And I work across all time zones, so it's no worries at all. So thanks very much, and I'll pass it back to Tia.
Great. Thank you so much, Rob. It's excellent, very insightful presentation. So we have received quite a few questions here from our participants. The first one, I have a concern with the potential of poor voice quality in a cloud telephony system at home for our remote worker versus office environment that is usually equipped with a good quality broadband internet connection. Do you have a suggestion to resolve this issue?
Yeah, well, it is common. So for instance, obviously voice quality is key for a good user experience or customer experience. And, I've had this conversation a number of times with different companies I've been working with, and they've had concerns about it. But, the benefit of using, in particular, our solution is it is a very low bandwidth requirement. So I think it's 92 kilobytes per second is the requirement that you need to do a high quality tier 1 voice call. And that's what we can provide. We've crystal clear call recording and call quality, and it's actually very important to us because we do so much transcription and things beyond that. So there's actually a very low bandwidth requirement. You just need an average internet connection really to be able to handle communications through your browser with our solution anyways in particular.
Great. So the next question, also still within the audio area. So how much capacity of audio and video content we can save in Solgari portal?
Yeah. So this is probably one of the things that differentiates us from other providers. So we don't charge for, let's say by gigabyte for storage. We do per user per month. So for instance, if you were to go to our website and look at our pricing, and if let's say a company needs call recording for compliance purposes, what we do is we do it per user per month is the way it costs it, and it's essentially unlimited for those users. One of the good things as well about our pricing, so we're a SaaS model, so it's a subscription. Within most companies, you might be dealing with 100 people who actually only need voice recording or compliance as part of their package. So we can I suppose we're flexible, or what's the word for it? We can cater the package depending on the company's needs. So storage is done per user per month, and it's essentially unlimited for that user, and it's built into the per user per month cost.
The next question I have is, were you receiving a ring when someone was calling through the laptop?
Yes. So that's the thing. I'm obviously using a headset here, so apologies. So yes, I receive a notification into my ears. So whether it's a chat, so there's different notifications depending on depending on what channel they're coming over. So when it's an inbound call, I get a ringing sound into my ear, and the same obviously outbound. When I'm dialing out, I can hear the phone line try and connect with the user, or if it's not connected, I can hear the unavailable tone as well. So yeah, I can hear that as well. It's just that to ensure good voice quality for this webinar, I used my headset.
The next question is about a system. Can your system direct incoming calls directly to the owner of the account as recorded in D365?
Yeah, so under our system, so this is a really good question because this comes down to our configuration, the configuration conversation that I had. So obviously we can do lots of cool things with entities within the system. We can do lookups within the system as well. So as part of that, one thing that we get asked is how can we redirect a call back to the person who dealt with them last? And the answer is yes, essentially. So we can do lots of things around routing. And we can get that data from a number of different sources. So we can do it at our contact center level, but we can also leverage data that's available within Dynamics 365. So it could look at account manager. Obviously, if that account person or if the previous agent isn't available to deal with the customer, it needs to have another rule associated with that to who to put it through to. But you would put that under, that would be under like a priority strategy or a skills-based routing strategy.
Yeah, just to add, one of the things we've done in the past too is we've configured the IVR so that a customer might put in, a case number, and in that case it would pop up with their case, so the agent doesn't have to search for it. If they put in their customer number, it could pop up with their account record. So integrating between Dynamics and telephony is actually quite powerful. We've done in the past hooking up churn models. So if somebody has a high propensity to churn and a high value client, it might go to one of the best reps first, or it might get answered on the second ring. So because the solution works directly within Dynamics, there's not a lot of integration, and we can do things. We can actually support business models that, in the past would have been a lot more complex to support.
Really good point. Yeah, absolutely.
I have a few more questions. Thank you, Bill. That just came through. The next one would be about data storage. Do you have your own database to store the data, or is it done in the D365 sandbox database?
Good question as well. So with regards to all our data, so we're hosting Verizon data centers globally, and it's that comes down to our kind of carrier capabilities, and there's benefits to us doing that. But I suppose it depends on our customer requirements. So very often we have especially if they're a regulated company, or let's say like in financial services, and they have a requirement to host data locally, we can facilitate that. But with regards to, generally as standard, we host in, ISO 27017 standard data centers globally, using, as I said, Verizon as our main provider for our data center. We've our own partition environment within that. And then with regards to kind of security and data like that, like all our data is encrypted, both at transit and rest. We use kind of a military grade encryption, and we've massive protocols in place there to ensure the highest security for all our data. So very often when we're dealing with customers, they have local requirements or in-region requirements, and we can easily facilitate that as well. So yeah, we're within Verizon data centers, and that's mainly for the carrier reasons, and we have some really good documentation on that if I need to send on as a follow-up to this.
So the next question is, are you able to deal with multiple conversations at once? Is there a way to set a workload limit so that some people can handle 2 live chats at once?
Yeah, so this is actually a really interesting conversation, because every contact center is different. So yes, we can set rules around at agent level or even group level. So for instance, if I'm engaged in a call, obviously I can't accept any other calls, or I can't accept any chats. However, if I'm engaged in a chat, I could have a concurrency around chats that maybe I can handle 5 chats in at the one time. And within our interface, you can navigate easily between a number of different chats and the entities associated with them. And also then from an agent perspective, we do this all through our kind of intelligent presence capabilities. No matter what way you want to configure it, you may have different teams who have different capabilities. You can cater for that, as I said, by users or by groups, all from within Solgari console as well. So that comes down to extension or group level permissions or configuration. So yeah, so that concurrency question, and something that we're working on there as well. You would have, in my demo, I showed you us working within the standard set of apps that run within Dynamics 365. The other option around there is that we're integrated with the Omnichannel for Customer Service app as well, which obviously handles that multi-session capabilities. So that's something then as well that we can integrate with too. But there's different levels of demand around that.
Asking about, can you explain on the AI features a little bit more?
Yeah, well, so if we wanted to go into the real in-depth into it, I'd have to get my CTO onto it. But there's a number of different ways we use AI in our system currently, and it's usually around knowing our agent. So when they're operating across, like for instance, we don't use a single sign-on. We use some AI and machine learning capabilities in our core that essentially is used to register agents in different endpoints. So it's not necessarily always like a single sign-on configuration. With regards to chat, what we're working on around the AI and the machine learning is taking in data based upon where the customer is coming from. So whether it's their IP, maybe it's a web page or whatever it would be, we're trying to leverage more and more AI to basically know the customer better, and then to plug in things like knowledge bases. So listen to the conversation. So prior to him pass through to a live agent, our Connect bot, our Connect bot essentially can start offering different knowledge-based articles to the customer to try and solve the problem. We're also working on that as well, just around AI and stuff, and these are other things that we're developing. So within our chat capability, there's things that we can plug in, like the ability for agents and customers to be able to communicate over different languages. So for instance, if I'm a customer and I come in and I'm speaking in French, I can type in French and we translate that. The agent responds in English and we translate that back into French. And that's using, I think it's Babel technology, AI technology, to basically improve the amount of channels and countries and jurisdictions that your contact center can work across. So there's numerous ways we're using AI, from an operational and deployment perspective right up to the customer experience perspective. As I said, I do it a deep injustice if I went to try and explain the ins and outs of it, but that's some of the high level stuff that we're doing around AI that's been rolled out.
I can add a little bit more onto that. So Microsoft has customer insights. And so customer insights has built-in modeling, and then we can extend it. So for things like churn models, lifetime value models, and even upsell models. So we can use that in controlling the call flow, so which agent gets it, and even analyzing stats. A high value client, you might expect the agent would spend more time with them rather than less. And we may even tie into cognitive services. So, we may want to look at all high value clients who are angry during a phone call, and then directly from there, maybe even hear the call recording. So AI and models is really very important and core to a CRM solution. And it really works well with the telephony, in terms of the call flowing and what you can do afterwards, like listening to the call recording and other capabilities.
Thank you so much, Bill and Rob. So we're just coming down to the end of our webinar. I wanted to let everyone know that the recorded version from today's webinar will be available in our YouTube channel. You can subscribe, like, or share our channel at CRM Dynamics CA to learn more about Dynamics 365 or other relevant topics. And if you would like to get additional information or would like to set up one-on-one discussion, please feel free to contact us at experts@crmdynamics.ca and visit our website at crmdynamics.com or solgari.com to learn more. Thank you again, everybody, Rob and Bill, for your participations in our webinar. Stay safe and have a Dynamics day.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.